D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. I hope everybody is having a wonderful Friday. How is everybody doing in here today?
Very good. I'm glad it's Friday.
Derek's doing something. The show's on, Derek.
We're setting up.
I know
setting
the
up
show's
for a big
on.
show.
I was just,
We're digging
digging into my
3 hours of
my big bag.
outstanding sports talk
Exactly.
radio.
We have to.
You got to lock in.
We have to get some things. We like making fun of one another on this show, especially when things happen before the show that makes one of us laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam,
Yes.
I mean, I told Willie because Adam, and he knows Willie's schedule. It's like he knows it. Like everybody in this studio knows it. Don't worry, Willie will be here. But
He'll be always on time.
He's always on his time, which is on time. And
Like
at around 2:55, 2:50, Adam, where's Willie? Where's Willie? Every 3 minutes, where's Willie? I'm like, I don't even say something half the time, but don't worry about it. Will it be here? Will it be here? Don't worry. So, Willie, will you just please let Adam know that you will be here? Like you're gonna come. You're here.
You got to trust.
Yes,
Trust the
trust
circle.
the process.
Sometimes,
We'll be there.
I'll be honest. Sometimes I get a little worried. At 3 o'clock, I'm like, "Where's Willie?"
Willie's gonna be here. I know Willie.
Well,
He's gonna be here.
D-Mace, I have news for you.
Yes.
The same thing happens when we're on a remote. It's like, did Derek?
Yeah.
Did he make sure? Does he know that we're out here
It's
today?
happened a couple
Does
Does he know
times.
that we're over here today?
And I come just rolling in right before. It's like
Well,
you know our tendencies now. That's what makes a good team. We know
in
each other's
fairness,
tendencies.
in fairness to Adam, there was that one time you did come
Right.
to the studio first.
Yeah,
There's
you're
always
right
that
about
one time.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one time.
And all
One
it
time
takes
banged
apparently to Adam is the one time, and
just
then
one
forever
time.
it's going to be a worry.
It's a big issue.
Willie's timing is impeccable. He shows up at 2:59:58, right as the intro starts playing. So.
Well, if that's the case, then
It's like the starting five. You know, you get
Yeah.
announced for the starting five, you pop off the bench, right? You know, you come
Willie-
right through.
Willie is the last person.
Yeah.
And we know it.
Yeah.
So
what you're saying is Willie is the Michael Jordan or LeBron James of
Hey.
our team. He's the last one
Yeah,
off
he's
the
the
bench
last
when the
one.
starting lineup gets announced.
A
He's
6'3"
Wilt.
senior from Maitland, Florida.
he's Wilt Chamberlain. He's the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's the Mark Eaton. He's the whoever was called last, the big fellas.
We're giving him a little too much
Shaq.
credit.
He's the Shaq.
Well, like
okay?
Paul McCann at the Preds games. And in goal.
There we go.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. Number 35, Pekka Rinne.
Oh, I'll talk about that later because you just gave me an idea for the show. But I'll talk about that later. But go ahead.
What's on your mind?
Let's get
We're
it
going to
started.
announce the starting five of our show.
The starting three. We should. That's the way we
Okay.
should announce our show.
Yeah.
It should be. We'll talk about it later.
Do we need the Alan Parsons project like the Chicago
Oh, if
Bulls?
we're going to do it
Hey,
right.
if we're gonna do it right,
Yeah. You got to have something like that.
and from Vanderbilt. See, we just got to do it.
All right. Well, we'll get to that.
Yes.
Busy show today. Chad Withrow from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow will join us at 3:20 to talk about the college football playoff, the Titans coaching search, and much more. We'll break down NFL wildcard weekend from a Titans perspective. We'll get into the latest on the Titans coaching search. The Predators win again. We'll talk about them too. But we start with the first of two college football playoff semifinals last night at the Fiesta Bowl. Miami wins 31-27. An outstanding fourth quarter, 25 combined points, 4 lead changes, and Miami heads to the national title game, which happens to be played at their home stadium, Hard Rock Stadium, on January 19th. They are the first team to play for a national title in their home stadium in the BCS/CFP era. And I will be asking Willie Donick once again if he owes Miami an apology. He refused to do so last week. Now that Miami beat another SEC team to get into the national title game, I'm going to ask Willie again. But first, Derek, your takeaways from Miami's win against Ole Miss last night.
I think we talked about it yesterday, what it would take for either team to win. And my thing was, if Miami plays defense the way they had been playing the past 2 games prior to this, then it's going to be hard to beat Miami. But if you can't stop that high-powered offense of Ole Miss, then man, you're gonna have troubles. And Ole Miss do have a defense. It's not like it's a great defense, but they do have a pretty good defense. Well, what you had was a team that in the second half, meaning the Hurricanes, that defense came to play. They were coming from that game should have been worse as far as score-wise than what it shouldn't have been that close. Miami dropped 3, and I will repeat, 3, maybe 4 interceptions in that game. That would have been 3 to 4 turnovers that the Hurricanes would have had. And let's just say they scored 10 points, 10 out of the 28 possible points they could have scored. That would have been a blowout in regards to this round in the college football playoffs. I think Ole Miss played a hell of a game toward the end. That offense with Chambliss, I mean, Trinidad, that kid is fabulous. He runs that offense and he operates in that offense like no other. It's hard to stop him. He's sort of like Diego in a sense. It's that 2-headed monster that he has. He can throw the ball. He's more accurate than Diego, but he can run the ball just as well as Diego. And at times, the Hurricanes had problems with it. But when it came down to stopping them when they had to, I mean, that Canes defense, I mean, they put pressure on them. I think those even though they end up scoring, they put pressure on Ole Miss toward the end that sort of got to them a few times. But that ended up being, I mean, if that was the national championship game, I would be all right.
Yeah, it was
I
a
would
great
be
game.
completely all right. That was a fabulous game.
It was a fun finish, back and forth. You did get the feeling there were just a few more seconds.
Yes.
If there was just a few more seconds that Ole Miss had, they might have gotten the buzzer beater. But hats off to Miami. You got to give them credit. They started the year, I think, with a lot of believers that they were really a national title contender, but it was sort of erased when they had the slump 3/4 of the year, 3/4 into the season where they lost the 2 games. But full marks. Carson Beck, right, has had his ups and downs in his career. He can look really good and really bad, and give him credit, man, for orchestrating that last drive. Fantastic work.
Okay, Mr. SEC snob over there. And by the way, we will be discussing the SEC in just a little bit because the SEC has now been shut out of the national championship game again. But Willie, you refused to apologize to Miami last week. The Hurricanes have knocked out 2 SEC teams in the CFP. Are you now willing to apologize to Miami?
No. And here's the reason why. It's nothing against Miami. Everybody who gets a chance to make a run in a postseason tournament that makes a run deserves full credit for making that run. It's not about that. It's about who deserved to be who deserved to get the chance to begin with. And I'm watching the game with a lot of people that happen to be Vanderbilt followers like I am to say, why couldn't Vanderbilt or Notre Dame or anybody else that was just on the outside looking in, why couldn't they have made the same run? It's all about opportunity. Miami has made the most of the opportunity, but I don't think it says, oh, yeah, they should have been in there over X, Y, Z. It easily just as well could have been Notre Dame or Vanderbilt or 1 or 2 other teams as well.
I don't think it's about who should have been in there. I think it's about what have they done since entering into the college football playoffs. And Miami has proven that, their style of play has gotten them to the national championship. I'm not sure if Vandy was playing the type of defense that Miami was playing. I'm not sure if Notre Dame would have been able to play the defense that Miami was playing. You look at Notre Dame's schedule; they had a weak schedule toward the last 8. But Miami showed that style of defense that we didn't see. I didn't see that style of defense from being that aggressive from Vandy all season. Now they were good. Right.
But you know why you saw it for Miami? Because they got a chance to play.
Exactly.
And they did it.
But
how do you know Vanderbilt couldn't have had a great run of defense?
They could have.
We don't know.
They could have. But what the last thing I seen of Vandy, and I love Vandy, love what Clark Lee is doing, and I think they're going to be in the same position next year, if not in the playoffs. They didn't show, like, in their last game we saw, they played horrible defense. And I get it. It was just a bowl game, but they were only missing one guy. And that one guy's a hell of a player, but he was on offense, and offense still was able to score points. But from a defensive standpoint, I'm just being fair in this situation. The last time we'd seen those teams, well, Notre Dame opted to not play, so the hell with Notre Dame. But the last team we saw that had an opportunity that we were sort of conflicted with was Vandy. And I get it. It's just they didn't show the best Vandy. They didn't show the best version of Vandy that we seen on defense. That's all I'm saying. And I know it's a national championship run in the playoffs, but Miami could have just they didn't show. They could have just got blew out.
If Miami got snubbed, which it looked like they were going to, and they went to a bowl game and
I would be saying the same thing.
It easily could have happened that way too. The bowl game is not the same intensity where everybody's at their best. So I go back to the process of selecting the teams is different than giving a team full marks for peaking at the right time. And that's what Miami's done. Full marks for Miami. But the fact is they got a gift getting in from a weak conference where they weren't the league champion. They really were questioned whether they were in there or not. And somebody was going to get screwed either way. Miami was lucky enough to get in there. They made the most of it. I give them full marks. But I'm not apologizing.
Wow.
No.
You won't apologize to the Canes?
No.
Wow.
No.
You better watch out because Michael Irvin may take that belt and come after you, Willie. But in all seriousness, we did a lot of belly aching, and a lot of people did a lot of belly aching about the college football playoff bracket. But what we're seeing is what I think a lot of people wanted to see for the second year in a row, a team that wouldn't have sniffed the 4-team college football playoff is going to the national championship. Ohio State last season and Miami this season. And it's sort of this new world order of college football. The final 4 teams, Oregon, Indiana, Miami, Ole Miss. Now, Miami does have a storied history, but the Hurricanes have been wandering in the wilderness.
They've been in dormant
for the past 20 plus years, right? So look, we were upset by Vanderbilt's exclusion from the college football playoff bracket, but overall, this is what you want, right? There is much more unpredictability in college football in the postseason now because of the 12-team bracket. So we're getting what we want, right?
Yeah, we're getting what we want as far as competitive game, exciting games. Now, people want the first round to be fixed, not letting some of these teams in that are eventually going to get blown out. But here's the thing. Do I think that the SEC or the Big Ten has overtaken the SEC or the SEC remains the top sort of conference? Look, from top to bottom, the SEC is the stronger conference. But now moving forward, we're not ranking them based upon top to bottom. It's who gets in, and then we rank them based upon that. It's no longer, because now we're saying these bowl games don't mean anything. So now it's the Big Ten has jumped the SEC when it comes to beating them in just regular bowl games. Now it's everybody saying, no. We got to change the rules here. Nope, that don't matter anymore. Well, before it mattered. Like when Big Ten and SEC played in just bowl games, it was the SEC reigned supreme. Look at what we're doing, not just in the championship games, but in the bowl games. But now all of a sudden, the bowl games don't matter. That's why I said, and it's cool, but now the field has changed. The requirements have changed. Now we're only ranking 16 teams. Because that's eventually what it's going to get to.
Yep.
We're only going to talk about 16 teams. Damn the rest of them. I don't care if the Big Ten win all of their bowl games outside the college football playoff. I don't care if the SEC wins their bowl game. It doesn't matter. You know what matters? Who's in the top 16.
And we will get more into where the SEC goes from here. Again, the SEC shut out of the national title game in college football for the third year in a row. It's been a very long time since that happened. Here is a bit of breaking Titans news before we get to Chad Withrow. According to Jordan Schultz, the Titans plan to interview Mike McDaniel for their vacant head coach position. Jordan Schultz writes, quote, "This is the first known interview for McDaniel, who also has interest from other teams, including Cleveland, for its head coaching job." So Mike McDaniel planning to interview with the Tennessee Titans for the head coaching position.
Also, I don't know if it's in that press conference, but they are also planning on interviewing Xavier McDaniel, the X-Man from the Seattle Supersonics. I mean, who are they not interviewing?
This is what I'm talking about. Didn't y'all
They're interviewing everybody.
Didn't y'all hear me yesterday in particular about McDaniel? You don't want that guy. You don't. He's going to change.
Offensive coordinator?
Yes.
Is that so? That's the inside,
offensive
right?
coordinator.
I mean,
maybe
he's
that's
he's
Not
a
your
pretty
head
bright
coach.
offensive mind.
Not a head coach. Offensive coordinator. Not a head coach.
Well,
You see what he
But
walked.
this
He
is
walked
the
into
philosophy,
Miami as
right?
a
It's
schoolboy.
clear what they're doing. Just bring everybody in. I want to meet you. I want to talk to you, and let's just see. Do you fit?
He walked in as schoolboy. Walked out as a Tony Montana. No, I don't want that. No. OC, yes. The shine ain't on him as much. Okay. There you go. But that's just me and my 2 cents
Also-
when it comes to McDaniel.
What about Xavier McDaniel, the X-Man, a good rebounder?
Hey, if it works.
He's in the movie Singles. Played for the Knicks.
I do want to give a shout
Yeah.
out
And
to
the
Brian Callahan,
Yes.
who interviewed with the Buccaneers for their vacant OC job. So good for you, Brian Callahan. And it would be good for Brian Callahan to get hired by another team, right?
Yeah, because
then-
to get him off the books.
Yes. So
They're
cheer
like,
on Brian
please.
Callahan to get another job. Brian
Please get
Callahan
a job.
interviewing for the Buccaneers offensive coordinator position. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com. We'll take your thoughts on Miami's win against Ole Miss in the Fiesta Bowl. Miami headed home to play for the national championship on January 19th against either Oregon or Indiana. That game coming up later tonight. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, Chad Withrow from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow will join us. We'll talk college football playoff. We'll talk SEC, and we'll talk Titans head coaching search with our friend Chad coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The Game Nashville Sports Network is your home for the college football playoff tonight at 6:30 on 102.5 The Game. It's number 5 Oregon taking on number 1 Indiana in the Peach Bowl. The college football playoff is presented by Twin Peaks and Parman Tractor and Equipment. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
No comment on the musical theme.
I like the music.
I mean, it's Friday.
It is Friday.
I like it.
It may be before my time.
Yeah. It was definitely before your time.
Yeah,
okay. But that hasn't stopped you before. You could go back in the annals.
I can. That is true.
Just not for that one.
Just not for that one.
You don't know about Yarborough and Peoples?
No. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he don't.
Let's get to chat.
Like, huh? Y'all
It's
who?
like
Who's people?
people. What?
Let's welcome in Chad Withrow from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow on Outkick. So, Chad, Ole Miss's elimination last night means the SEC has been shut out of the national championship game for the 3rd year in a row. This hasn't happened since the turn of the millennium. So, how should the SEC feel about that?
First off, Willie, the only Yarborough I know is former Tennessee Vol hooper Vincent Yarborough.
Vincent Yarborough, yeah,
So
I can see
you just
that.
taught me something too. I like that I walked into a house party also. That was great.
Yes, I don't think there's any relation.
No, I don't think so either. Look, I think that the SEC, it's not a good look. You know, it's 3 straight years, no national championship appearance. I would still contend, top to bottom, you know, the SEC is better than the other conferences from this respect. If you told me I had to go to Kentucky or Arkansas or Auburn versus going to Maryland and Purdue and some of these other programs, I would still prefer to go to the bottom of the Big Ten and play a game. But the difference is, guys, that the top conferences are not just as good, in some cases better than the SEC. So there's not that elite team anymore that's just far and away more dominant with talent than others. We know Ohio State's roster and how good it's been and how many NFL draft picks they've produced. They're as good, if not better, than any roster in college football. Michigan has gotten that way as well. Now you see what Indiana is doing with a roster that has talent, but not that elite high school recruiting talent that we're used to. They're doing it a bit of a different way in the transfer portal. But I really think the Big Ten's a good example of that. It's just changed. I think everything in college football, the dynamic has shifted so much. NIL has certainly helped other conferences as well. I think it's helped a number of SEC programs too. But I think you just look across the country and there's better football being played in different conferences. And by the way, I think that's a great thing for the sport. I think people hating on the SEC is a good thing for the sport. Sometimes a little dislike or hate not a bad thing in sports. And I think that people are taking victory laps around the SEC, honestly, is a good thing nationally. And it's time for the SEC to step it back up and produce one of those dominant teams that can make a national championship game.
To that point, Chad, what must the SEC do to adjust to reassert its dominance?
I just think a team needs to emerge that is dominant. You know, it's been one thing or the other. You know, Ole Miss loses their coach going into the playoff, and they still play well, but that's not the dominant team. Georgia, I thought, was the dominant team coming in, and they got involved in a great second half and trying to beat a team twice and lost in the second half. Alabama, let's face it, it's not the Nick Saban Alabama. It's not an Alabama fan's birthright to be as good as they were under Nick Saban. It's just not the same program. They're not feared anymore. It's very different with that program. So is somebody else going to emerge as the dominant power? I would still lean towards it being Georgia or Texas or one of the more predictable programs that's gonna be that. But it just takes one of them becoming a little bit better and getting hot at the right time and not running into a bad matchup and all of that. You know, a year ago, both Georgia and Texas had a shot. I think Georgia had a pretty good shot, but they go up against Notre Dame with Gunnar Stockton, who had never started at quarterback after Carson Beck got injured in the SEC championship game. So, you know, that's not a great opportunity for an SEC team to advance. I don't really know that there's one magic answer other than one of these teams at the top of the conference just has to get a little bit better to get over the top again.
Now, Chad, we say that, but in today's football, what do we classify as dominant? Is it the old way we did when Alabama was winning, championship after championship every 2 or 3 years? Or is it just a team winning a championship but then being in the playoffs? Because what you said is true. Because of these head coaches are leaving and this has happened, but this is the world of college football now. I don't know if there will be a dominant team anymore. Basketball went through its phase where there was dominant teams, but then all of a sudden the landscape changed. And now you had dominant teams as far as from a historical standpoint. And we always like to watch Duke and these other teams. But when you're talking about winning championships, now it becomes a little bit more diverse in who wins it.
I totally agree, D. Mason. And the fact that we aren't going into every college football season just saying, oh, it's either Alabama or Ohio State or Clemson or Georgia or name another program, right? Most years in the last 10 or 15 years, we could point to 5 to 7 teams. LSU would be in that mix occasionally. Auburn might be in that mix. But we'd throw those teams in and say, it's going to be one of these 6 or 7 teams. I think that pool of possible teams to win it all has expanded. And I think that's a great thing for the sport also. And what would I define as dominant? It's not multiple national championships in a short time. It's a team that can get to the quarterfinals year in and year out. I consider Ohio State to be a pretty dominant football program, right? They won it all last year. They got knocked out after getting a bye in the quarterfinals this year. Still pretty good. They lost their last 2 games, but I would put that level of, Georgia also is another one I'd put in there. If you consistently feel like, well, the floor is the quarterfinals of the playoffs, then you are a dominant program, even if you aren't just routinely winning national championships the way Nick Saban was at Alabama. And in terms of this season, what is dominant? It's Indiana. I mean, I can't point to anyone else, but I point to them at undefeated and, challenged in that game in Eugene against Oregon, but won by multiple scores, and then challenged at Penn State, but found a way to win on a day where they didn't play very well. That's dominant. In today's college football, this Indiana team is the most dominant. But guys, they're going into a game tonight where I think a lot of people, the trendy pick is Oregon because it's going to be so tough for Indiana to beat them twice. But I'm not betting against Curt Cignetti.
Now, what did you see from the Hurricanes that would make you believe, and I don't know if you think they can win a national championship or not, but that would make you believe they could win a national championship?
A dominant front seven. That's the envy of everybody in college football. I mean, I think I watched that, and they would be great for any team to have that level of aggression and those guys up front. And in that second half, I mean, I thought their offensive line was fantastic. I think the way they pull their guards, the way they get things in motion. I mean, I saw a 17-yard run where he was untouched until 15 yards down the field. And I'm thinking that's just expert offensive line play from Miami. So I do think in the trenches, they're outstanding. And that's what I saw last night. The way we thought about the old SEC was those Alabama fronts, Georgia fronts that now all play for the Philadelphia Eagles, their offensive lines. I watch Miami, and I think that's in the trenches, that's who they are. They're Alabama, they're Georgia in years past, they're LSU. That's how talented the front and the offensive line for Miami is. So that's what I saw in that game, and that's what I've seen from them consistently. They held the ball for over 41 minutes last night in time of possession. They physically dominated Ole Miss, and Ole Miss hung in there and played pretty well late and got the turnovers and took advantage of penalties and all of that. But I really think watching it, Miami was the much better team in that game.
Chad Withrow is with us. And Chad, what did you think on a related topic here, the decision for Chambliss? Because I think we all got to really like watching him play, but it's that same dilemma, right? You can't stay in college forever. Not everybody could be Thornton Mellon.
Yeah. What was it? Tommy Boy said, hey, a lot of people go to school for 7 years. Yeah, they're called doctors. I think David Spade said. That must be you, right? No, I'm just always surprised when the NCAA at this point just decides to say no to anything because we've become so accustomed to them just kind of throwing their hands up and, releasing a statement saying, hey guys, we think this is ridiculous too, to bring back, former NBA first-round draft picks to play. But, we really can't do anything until Congress does something and gives us an antitrust exemption is what they want, because they know that if it goes to federal court, they're likely to lose. So when it comes to eligibility stuff like this, they still do have some teeth, and obviously they can rule, and they did on Trinidad Chambliss. But I mean, I don't know where this goes. I saw Tom Mars release a statement. I mean, I know they're going to continue to do things legally. They're talking about we're going to get a fair hearing and Mississippi judiciary, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's going to be real fair for the NCAA when you go in front of Mississippi judiciary about whether or not the star Ole Miss quarterback can continue to play for one more year. So I think it's all a mess. I thought the Diego Pavia thing was a mess, quite frankly. Worked out great for Vandy, but I don't think that's good overall for the sport. I think Joey Aguilar gets another year of eligibility, while great for Tennessee, is bad for the sport overall. But what do I think right now is going to happen? I think he'll probably get an extra year. I think Chambliss will. I think that Joey Aguilar, if motivated to continue down that path, is going to get one as well. It's crazy to see all this, Willie. I'm with you, but we've entered an era right now where if you push the envelope and you continue to pay lawyers, you can probably get what you want out of this.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So, Chad, where do you think Ole Miss goes from here after the whole fallout, right? It was a great run. They almost got to the final, which would have been just a great story with everything, and it still was a good story. But now they've got to figure out where they're going.
I love what Pete Golding said about all these other programs. They sell tradition, and they show people their Heisman Trophy winners and their national championships. And he said something, like, well, not a damn person in those rooms did that. They didn't win the Heisman Trophy. They didn't win the national title. We sell trajectory at Ole Miss, and that sounds great, right? He said, we're selling that this is a player-led. You got the infrastructure. They've got resources behind it. And we're all about where are we going, not where have we been, which is what you have to do if you're a program with not a ton of winning success, like an Ole Miss. So I think they got the right guy for the job. I think this playoff run shows that with Pete Golding. I got a couple of friends who are really tied into Ole Miss, Willie, and I talked to them about it. They're very optimistic. Even before the wins in the playoff, they said, look, Ole Miss has money. They've got support. Walker Jones is a stud athletic director. They've got what it takes to put money into it and make it work. Sorry, Keith Carter, athletic director. Walker Jones heads up their collective, which you can see how I'm confused because they're kind of one and the same now. Walker Jones,
both very important
collective.
jobs.
Yes, both very important. Walker Jones, the Grove Collective, he's got his money in order. They've got their system in order. Keith Carter, great athletic director, and they love Pete Golding. This to me is the great test study of, can you go with an unproven coach, maybe pay the head coach a bit less, and allocate more for staff, more for analysts, and more for roster, and go win at the highest level? Because quite frankly, I think it's insane to pay anyone that's not Curt Cignetti or Kirby Smart $13 million a year right now to be the head coach. Because I would want more of that money going towards roster if I'm one of these programs. So I think it's we know what Ole Miss was this year, and that was a program and a roster built by Lane Kiffin. I'm really interested to see what they look like moving forward. If they can continue some of this success, I think it's a good template for other programs to follow.
It is an interesting theory about the allocation of resources. It's almost like a Moneyball, like everybody's rethinking. And of course, Moneyball, one of the things they did was they thought that the manager of the team was less important than than traditionally was the case. So I wonder if that will play out in time. Chad, real quick, a question on hoops. Vanderbilt and Tennessee will play each other twice late in the season. They don't see each other for a while, but in the meantime, they're both going to try to rack up some wins here. Tell me what you're seeing with Tennessee right now.
Yeah, I think with Tennessee, it's a team that still is looking to get completely connected. I think you kind of take for granted with Ziegler and Meshack and all those guys around for so long, just how together that group was the last couple of years that made that run to the Elite Eight, led by those two guys. This is almost a completely new team, other than some returning guys in the front court. So I think it's taken some time to get together. I think they're starting to do that. They got to go play well on the road. They've yet to play a good game, a good road game so far. They've got the big win over Houston. They gave them their only loss on a neutral court, but they need to go play well in a true road game. We know how good they've been under Rick Barnes at home. I don't see that stopping anytime soon. And really, they got to hit their free throws because, in this league, when you get into these games,
there's going to be some high foul games if anything is true from Memorial Gym the other night.
imagine if Vandy, shot 42% from the free throw line, shooting 80 free throws or whatever it was combined the other night. They're not winning that game. So if Tennessee hits free throws on the road at Arkansas, they win. And they get the biggest win early on in the conference on the road. That's been a real bugaboo for this team. And with the margin so razor thin, when you play good competition in the league, especially on the road, you got to hit free throws. And this team just has not done that. They were a little better on Tuesday night against Texas in Knoxville, but they got to go on the road and play well at some point and notch a big road win. And that's what I'm looking to see from the Vols this season.
Chad Withrow has been our guest on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. He joins us every Friday. And, of course, you can hear him with our friend Jonathan Hutton on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow on Outkick. Chad, great stuff as always, my friend. We'll catch up next week.
Always fun, gents. Have a great weekend.
You as well. 615-737-1025. All right, we've talked about it a little bit already, but we're going to do more of a deep dive into this subject. Has the SEC reached a crossroads of sorts now that it has been shut out of the national title game in college football for the third year in a row? We will discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick.
Been terrible. Now, I'm sure somebody at the SEC office is whispering, "Hey, don't forget, Ole Miss could win it all," and that would solve some of the wounds. But this has been a long year for the SEC, and I think in the end, because I kept wrapping my arms around Alabama and saying, "Stephen A., did you remember what they did? They went through that gauntlet in the middle of the year." Well, a lot of those teams they beat really weren't very good after all. They lost in bowl games and they looked terrible.
Right.
So it's a rough year for the SEC. Ole Miss is it, regardless of the Lane Kiffin story, which I know we're going to talk about. But there's no if Ole Miss loses Thursday night, and I'm sitting around having to defend this league to you, Stephen A., saying, "Oh, no big deal that it's 3 straight years without an SEC team in the national championship game." I mean, there's no defense.
Well,
it's been rough.
That was Paul Feinbaum earlier this week, before Ole Miss lost to Miami last night in the college football playoff semifinal. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. And when I heard that clip earlier this week, guys, it reminded me of something else Paul Feinbaum said at SEC Media Days all the way back in July. We talked about this article from the Wall Street Journal back in July with the headline, "The SEC confronts a new college football opponent, panic." And the closing quote from Paul Feinbaum in that article in the Wall Street Journal was this, quote, "I understand the narrative, but for now, I think it's way premature. A 2-year sample is simply not enough. But if we're sitting here having a cup of coffee at the national championship game and the SEC isn't in it, that will be the moment. The angst will come." Well, that moment is here because the SEC has been shut out of the national title game for the 3rd year in a row. So I want to start with our resident SEC snob, Willie Donick. What does this all mean?
What it means is pretty simple to me. I don't think the SEC is doing anything wrong. I think it is just a product of having too many teams in the league and too many powerhouse teams in the league. They beat each other up. It is very difficult to dominate, as we just talked about with Chad. So with all of the NIL and how it has started to distribute itself across college football, where the tier below the dominant teams have closed the gap on the teams at the top, it simply makes it more difficult to stand out and dominate your league. And I think it's especially true in the SEC, where everybody that plays in the league is now, including Vanderbilt, bringing something to the table. You're not going to, and that is not the case at the bottom of the other power leagues. I still think there are a lot of teams that are a tier below what you see week in and week out in the SEC. So I think that's the thing that they're going to have to deal with, and they made their own bed by taking Oklahoma and Texas, 2 more heavyweights in there. You have an unbalanced schedule. So I think this is going to be an issue a lot. Because I think Chad hit on it. The way to say it is, it's harder to have a team like Alabama or a program like Alabama who had that dominant run. For a while, Tennessee had it. For a while, Florida had it. Georgia's recently had it. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's harder to have that now in this league because of the way the NIL has taken over.
Derek, some numbers for you from bowl season. The SEC went 4-10 in bowls this season, 2-8 when not playing against each other, and 1-8 against other Power 4 teams. The 2 wins, when excluding games where 2 SEC teams were playing each other, were Ole Miss beating Tulane and Texas beating Michigan. That's it. So I know that the non-CFP bowl games don't matter as much, but it's a bad record. It's a bad record.
Listen, this is listening to them. This is SEC snobberish to the foolish, to the fullest. I mean,
SEC snobbery to the fullest. Do you hear that, Willie?
It's
Always.
like, oh, the world's about to end, while everybody else is like, what? I got on shorts and I'm at the beach and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Everybody in the world is okay. But the SEC is like, oh my goodness, everything's about to end. No longer are we on top. Duh. The world's not about to end and y'all are not on top anymore as of right now. Y'all will be okay. It's this what the SEC, maybe they realize it, maybe they don't. But the fan base, let's say this. This is not your parents' SEC anymore. This is not young Derek's SEC anymore. This is not young Willie's SEC anymore. This is not even Adams 10 years ago SEC anymore. The landscape has completely changed. And you know who don't like it? The SEC. They don't like it. Oh my goodness. Now everybody get a chance to compete with us. Oh, we can't win championships. We can't do this. Just put up your big boy pants and play some football.
I think that's what they're going to do. I think they have to realize that it's not going to be as easy to dominate for the reasons I think I put out there. I still think it's the best league from top to bottom, and I still think it's not.
What makes
close.
You say that?
I'm not worried
they
about
haven't won the national championship in the last 2 years, and they're not going to win it this year.
Well,
a team representing the SEC.
I'm not worried about the bowl performance. I think that's more of an anomaly, and there's more of a wild card to each bowl game individually now. But the not winning the championship for 3 straight years, I think a lot of it is it's harder to dominate, and the path you have to take to get through the SEC and through a long road of playoff games, at least 3, that is a war of attrition. That is hard to get all the way through.
Stop whining about it. Y'all claim y'all are the best. You claim you're the best.
They're the best conference.
But if you're the best conference. When you get into the playoff, you need to win, and they haven't won.
How many SEC teams were in the 12-team field?
Stop screaming.
5.
Stop screaming about. Y'all had 5 opportunities to make it to the college football playoff, championship game, and all 5 times y'all whiffed. Okay, the landscape of college football has changed. I'm not even going to say the Big Ten is dominating, because I know the pendulum can swing very quickly with the way these kids are transferring. I'm not even talking about the coaches leaving. Coaches have been leaving, going and coming for many years. It's all about how much money can you come up with to go get these transfers that are jumping in the portal, and some are forced to go in the portal every year. Prior to this, Alabama, Georgia, they can hoard, 5-star talent, and they couldn't go nowhere. And That's why Saban was like, no, I don't want anything to change. All these coaches, I don't want anything to change. Well, now that things have changed, it has leveled the playing field, which I think is the best thing for college football.
But it's also leveled the playing field within the SEC, especially too. So I think it's compressed everybody. There used to be more tiers because of what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And now I think those tiers are much closer together. I'll give you an example.
So you're saying the top teams are much closer to the bottom teams in SEC?
In the SEC. And I don't think so. I'll give you an example. South Carolina struggled, right? Mm-hmm. South Carolina was a preseason top 15 team that had a bad year. They still are able to build a 30-3 lead over an undefeated Texas A&M team. That is what I'm talking about.
But that happens in all sports.
No, it doesn't. Yes, that never used to happen.
That happened.
Tell me when a bad Vanderbilt team could build a 30-3 lead against an undefeated team.
I'm not even talking about Vanderbilt. I'm just saying in football in general. Things like that happen. Then what happens? The team that ends up being the better team, more than likely ends up coming back the second half because of the way college football is and scoring up and down the field. They end up coming back in the second half and end up winning. That happens in every conference across the board. But yet and still, I don't think that the top of the SEC is any closer to the bottom in the ACC than it was 5 years ago. You may have your anomalies. I hope Vandy, the way they've been playing over the last 2 years, it stays the same and it stays consistent. But more than likely, you're looking at all these teams, there's going to be a regression, and it's going to go back to being the top tier teams and the bottom tier teams in all conferences around the U.S. It doesn't matter. But what has happened is all the top teams in every conference, it's become more of a level playing field, because now we can, almost in a sense trade players, because that's what's happening. Free agency is every year.
I would equate it to when the NFL or the NHL put a salary cap in.
Mm-hmm.
It made it different for teams. Like the Red Wings were dominating in the pre-salary cap. They had way more money to spend. If you spend it smart like they did, they were right in there every year. When they put the salary cap in, they were still really good, but it was harder to win because more teams were closer to them. It closed the gap between their advantage and the bottom of the league. And I think that's what's happening across college sports, that it's the distribution of funds and talent because of the free flow has leveled. It's closed the gap. It's going to be harder for any league to dominate, including the SEC. And the SEC has the extra layer of all 16 teams are in the game fully. And so it's going to be hard to dominate within the league.
One texter says, preach, D-Mace. That's why Saban quit. He knew that the Alabamas were no longer going to be the only ones playing. Caleb says they had 2 matchups against each other in the playoff, which proves Willie's point. Another texter said, how many SEC games were in the playoffs that weren't against each other?
Well, the Big Ten now has one. So essentially, you could have had 2 Big Ten teams in the national championship.
Alabama beat Oklahoma in the first round. So that was against each other. Ole Miss beat Tulane. Miami beat Texas A&M.
Ole Miss beat Georgia.
Ole Miss beat Georgia. Indiana beat Alabama. And,
well, it wasn't until the
Miami
second
beat
round.
Ole Miss.
Yes.
So those were the SEC-related matchups in the
right. So there were two games
playoffs
in which SEC eliminated SEC.
Yes. 615-737-1025. We will continue this conversation and take your reaction as well. 615-737-1025. What does it really mean that the SEC is national titleless once again? And not just not winning the national title, not even being in the national title game. It's the 3rd year in a row that the SEC will not even be playing for the national title game, let alone winning the national title. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025. The Game.
Happy Friday, everyone. This is Derek Mason. You heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution or goal to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But I got some good news because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and this is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize their program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick 102.5. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David James here with you. One half of the college football national championship game has been set. Miami defeats Ole Miss last night. Oregon versus Indiana in just a few hours to determine the other half of the national title game, January 19th at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. And there will be no SEC representative in the national title game for the third year in a row. So we're talking about this sort of crossroads, I'm going to call it, that the SEC finds itself. And I want to start this segment by reading something from Seth Emerson of The Athletic, who wrote a column about this very subject, and I want y'all's opinion on it. He writes, quote, "A humbled SEC may become a desperate but smarter SEC, because if the conference is going to get its mojo back, it will just need to mean more again, as in more money towards players. Normally, you could say the SEC was just due for a dip. This was cyclical, nothing to waste a column on. But the dip coincides with the other changes in the sport. The world is flat now, and too many SEC teams were slow to react." Do you agree?
I don't think it's about more money. I think what's been proven is it's about smart, how you build your roster. Now, if everybody gets smart, see, this is what happened with Moneyball in baseball. The A's had a leg up, and they started kicking the you-know-what out of teams that had way more money to spend because those teams were so stupid on how they spent it. But what happened over time? People are like, well, what are the A's doing? Let's hire some people from the A's. Let's get our own analytics department. Let's figure out what they're doing, and we'll do it better, and we have more money. That made it harder for the A's, and that's part of the reason the A's are moving to Vegas, right? They couldn't make it happen. So that might happen over a long period of time, is the SEC will have more to spend, and they'll get smarter on how they spent it or how they spend it. But I still think that the problem for the SEC is going to be within the league. It's going to be so competitive that no matter if you spend more, everybody's going to be spending close to you, and there'll be a lot of teams that are smart in how they do it. And what did they just do as a league? In addition to adding Oklahoma, adding Texas, now they're going to 9 conference games. And they're still telling you in your league, hey, we're going to play 9 conference games against a brutal schedule. And you still got to schedule another team outside of the SEC that's a Power 4. So now you don't even have that cupcake at the end of the season. Oh, thank goodness we're playing Samford and we can win 66-0 and just sort of have a scrimmage. You can't do that anymore. So it's even going to be tougher to dominate than it has been.
Cry me a river. Please do. Well, you got Arkansas to play, who's a cupcake. You got South Carolina this year.
If you think that's a cupcake. Those aren't cupcakes.
Yes, they are. They won 2 games.
Right.
Both of them.
You
combined 6 games they won and lost 18 of them.
They're the best 2-win teams in the country. I guarantee.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. See, it's just the snobbery is at full effect.
It is, but it's true.
Okay, listen. It's not about, and this is what I think college as a whole needs to understand, because this is professional sports now. It's not about how much money you spend, it's how you spend it and who you spend it on. It's about building a team, because you only got 1 year to do this. 1, maybe 2, because guys, even if you pay them one, they may transfer the next following year. So you only got 1 to 2 years to do this. That's why Cignetti has been so successful. It's not that if you look at his roster based on last year, they probably didn't have the highest paid roster out there, but they had the right guys, and they bought into a system, and they were able to play together as a team. We've seen guys. Hell, Texas has the biggest wallets in the world, the largest wallets in the world, and look at what happened to them.
Right.
So it's not about how much money you can spend. These GMs are very important now. Not only it's about the salary cap. It's about going out there and being able to evaluate these players that are coming from other schools. Maybe it's a Division III, a fair state. Now you got to put in the time to really scout these guys, because you may end up paying a guy just because a lot of money, just because he transferred in from Alabama. He get on your team and he's not a fit for you. He's not. And I think teams are starting to find that out more times.
That's becoming the undervalued position that is going to be one that people probably pay more attention to.
Exactly.
So who can match the personnel to what you're trying to do?
To your point, Derek, about how much teams spend on their rosters, Sportico had a story published last month. In the most recent year for which data is available, Alabama spent $113.8 million on its football team, shattering the previous record by more than $30 million. And Alabama, according to this story, has had the country's most expensive football team in 6 of the past 7 seasons.
Now, what does that encompass? Just the players, or players, coaches? Like what is all added up in that 100+ million?
That's a good question. I will clarify.
Because I don't think the team roster is quite that high, right? The payroll of the team roster.
I have
it's not just talking about.
I have to assume it
NIL.
also includes Kalen DeBoer as well.
It's got to be.
I'll
right?
have to look.
And
I'll have to
the
confirm.
15 million assistants. You ever go to a page of an SEC team and said, "Look at the staff"? It used to be like, "Here's the staff. Here are the 8 guys, and here's their little bio." And now it is such a long list of people.
There's not a number of coaches they can't have.
It's unbelievable how many people you have on your support staff. That adds up.
One texter says, "Stop it, Willie. What does an SEC schedule have to do with struggling in the playoffs against non-SEC teams? Just take off your Homer glasses and admit good football exists outside of the SEC."
Yes.
It absolutely does, and I'm tipping my hat to those teams. But the road to get there is tougher in the SEC. It wears you down, and now you got to win 3 playoff games. It's not what it used to be. You don't have the depth advantage that you used to have. It's harder to dominate. So I think the SEC's got to get used to it. I think they're going to be back. I still believe it's the best league.
So
1 second, just to clarify, that $113.8 million number does include the coaching staff. The school paid $47.4 million in total coaching staff compensation that year amidst the head coaching change from Nick Saban to Kalen DeBoer. In addition to coaches' salaries, Alabama was also on the hook for a roughly $12 million buyout to cover DeBoer's departure from Washington.
So I think this is what teams have to figure out. Okay, I got all this money. How do I allocate it? What's the right amount for players? What's the right amount for coaches? Right amount for staff, et cetera.
Yeah, and you know, but I think what everybody is starting or need to start to realize is that, again, you know, the playing field, at least for the top half of all conferences, well, the 4 major conferences, let's just say it, really the 2 major conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC, no slight to, you know, the Big 12 or the ACC. But I think now what is happening, that top 8 to 9 teams, it's going to be every year, 8 to 9 teams. It's going to be competitive, but the bottom half is not. That's just the way it's going to be. That's the way it really has always been in the SEC, where you had your dominant teams at the top and then you had everybody at the bottom. But now, because of NIL, it has those teams that are at the bottom, they're starting to win more games now. It's not that they are, you know, competing at that level day in and day out, week in and week out with an Alabama or Georgia teams at the top, but they've gotten better. So now they can win more games. But still, when they go up against an Alabama or Georgia or one of these other top teams, Ole Miss or LSU, they're still going to end up losing, meaning the bottom half of the SEC. They're still going to end up losing more times than not that game to an Alabama, a Georgia, and LSU or Florida.
Justin says he's just listing Big Ten schools now. Purdue, Maryland, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Penn State, UCLA, Northwestern, Nebraska all seem like cupcakes this year. I would pick Arkansas over any of them. Jess says, how can the road still be tougher? I think the point of the conversation is that it isn't anymore. Sorry, Willie. I respectfully disagree.
That's fine. That's why we have talk radio. These are.
But I thought the SEC has always been tough. I thought it's always been tough.
It has.
It can't get tougher if you've always been tough.
I think well, think about what you used to have to do. You used to have to win the SEC, and then you had 1 or 2 playoff games.
It's not that they play. Every team don't play each other in this conference.
I know.
They just don't. So, again, I don't.
But no matter how you divide up the schedule, you don't play everybody, but you still, I still would say, I would argue that Mississippi State and Arkansas who are at the bottom of the league, Kentucky, on a given week, they would be able to challenge any top 25 team and play them nose to nose and make you work for the win. It was not easy to win those games. Auburn would be another one, a kind of a run-of-the-mill team. Almost beat Vanderbilt, almost beat Alabama at the end. They were capable, should have beat, kind of got hosed out of a win at Oklahoma, another playoff team. So that's what I'm talking about week in and week out. I don't think that happens as much in the Big Ten.
To your point, Willie, about the SEC bringing in Texas and Oklahoma, the SEC probably thought it would rule NIL, right? And free player movement. And it appears, to your point, which I think I will agree with you if I am getting your point correctly, is that the SEC sort of did this to itself.
Yes. I think they did. And also, I think over time, I'm curious, like the Indiana model, which is sort of close to the Vanderbilt model. Really smart spending, really good coaching. They built a roster. I wonder how many schools will be able to start emulating that and what effect that's going to have on all the leagues, really.
As far as
the parity, the number of teams on a given year that might be able to win the whole thing, which dilutes the ability for any conference to win year after year, like the SEC got used to doing for a long time. I just think it's going to be harder for anybody to dominate.
Well, and that's my point is, this is a new world for the SEC, and they don't like it, but they're going to have to get used to it.
Yeah. But my argument is it doesn't mean they're not the best league. I think it's still the best league.
So what do you qualify as? Okay, again, what do you qualify? What are the qualifications for being the best league? Because
the high level of play in the league, top to bottom in the league, week in and week out.
But before it was about winning championships. But now it's not about winning championships.
No, I think it's always about winning a championship. It's harder now. When you have to win 3 playoff games.
But y'all still the best conference, supposedly. Still the best conference in America.
They're going to win their share over time. I don't know if it'll ever be like it was the last, 15 or 20 years.
Which doesn't make y'all the best conference.
No, it's still the best conference.
How?
Because
what are the measurements?
The depth.
Okay, the
number of contenders.
But ultimately, who wins the national championship? The best conference, right?
No,
we're not talking about.
If Miami wins it, does that mean the ACC was the best conference?
Exactly. Yes.
Heck no.
Yes, they won the championship.
Better than that.
Hey, listen, for forever. This is what I'm talking about. The goalpost is being moved. Forever is win a championship.
If Gonzaga wins the basketball, that doesn't mean their league is the best league.
Hold on. Let me interject.
Okay.
As the ACC snob on the show. Okay.
We're a basketball conference.
Let me interject.
Well, they've won their 2 national. No, they didn't won 2 with Clemson. Or one.
Well, Clemson won the couple.
Yeah.
But this is my point. I will agree with Willie on this. If Miami wins the national championship, the ACC is not the best conference in college football. Miami didn't even make it to its own championship game.
Here we go. We're changing the rules of the game because said conference isn't in the championship. We don't talk about the SEC because they win SEC championship or they win bowl games. We talk about the SEC. Why? Because in 2022, they won the national championship. 2021, 2020, 2019, 2017, 2015, 2012, 2011, and 2010. That's why we talk about the SEC being a dominant conference, not because they win the SEC championship or winning bowl games, but now all of a sudden, the rules change.
Okay.
Y'all don't play it like that.
It's a new system.
It's a new system. It's a new system.
Look, it is a new system.
Derek,
transfer portal. It's a new system.
Derek, I think you're making some valid.
We got a playoff. We got playoff teams.
I think you're making some valid points, but to hear you just say, I had to jump in when you said, if Miami wins the national championship, the ACC is the best conference in college football.
You're based on the old system.
See, now it's the old system. Championships. They're the best. If they win, they're the best conference this year because they won.
It pains me to say this, but an 8-5 Duke team won the ACC championship.
Nobody cares about ACC championships. Do they? No.
But you can't make the argument that the ACC is the best conference if Miami wins.
If they win their, that's
where your argument went off the rails a little bit.
That's what we've been doing to the SEC for the last 15 years. If an SEC team wins, I don't care if it was Vandy that won the national championship. I wish it would have been. It's the SEC is the greatest. The minute the SEC don't make it to a championship game, the second year in a row, and they are not going to win a championship, this will be the third year. Now all of a sudden it's, now we got to change it. Push that goalpost back a little bit further because why? The SEC isn't in it.
Okay, hold on. We've got some great text. Skylar says, I just about drove my truck off the road when D-May said the ACC is the best conference in college football. Another texter said, Willie sounds like a lunatic. So we're all over the map here. We're all over the map. Let's go to Danny on our phone line, driven by WilsonCounty100.com. Danny, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going? Willie, I got a question for you. What qualifies the best team that year in the NFL?
Well, we're talking about a different league, the Super Bowl champion, right? Is what that's the answer you want? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Super Bowl champion. So the best team in the college football is going to be the one that wins. And the ones that consistently wins is going to be the teams that continues to win. Which
right. The team, yes.
Anymore.
But does that define the strength of the league, though? To me, that's a separate question.
But what qualifies the strength of that league? Just because the way they look, is it not a test?
I'll give you
winning anymore.
I'll give you another example of what I think. How many times were Indiana and Oregon pressed during their regular season? How many really tough games did they have within their league? A lot less than Georgia and Ole Miss and Texas A&M. In my opinion, there were some games that were a cakewalk. More games for Oregon and Indiana that were a cakewalk. Same with Ohio State, the teams out of the Big Ten. So I think it was an easier path to get where they are in terms of the strength of the league.
I still think that if Indiana had to play an extra game, they would still walk the floor with them. I think that extra game, that SEC teams have to play, I don't think it necessarily matters that much because they've had 5 teams in there that they had 5 chances. Granted, they knocked some people out themselves, but they just had a lot more chances than a lot of these other non-SEC teams had, and they couldn't make it again for the 3rd year in a row. And that's all I'd say.
Thank you for the call, Danny. 615-737-1025. We've got a lot of opinions in our text line. We will get to those coming up next.
Am I a snob for the SEC?
Yes, you sure are. And that's okay. You're unapologetic about it, and I admire that. And I think Derek is making some great points too. But when I heard that ACC take, I almost pulled my car off the road, and I'm not even driving.
I'm not sure he really believes it. I think he kind of walked into it and said, wait a minute, I got to stay with it. I got to stay strong.
615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
I knew it.
D-Mace, Vingan and Donick, 102.5. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. A spirited debate between Willie Donick and Derek Mason on the state of college football. James on our text line, Derek, wants to remind you it is no longer eggnog season.
So why? What happened? What did
Is
I
he
do?
saying you've had too much?
I had
Yes.
too much eggnog?
Yes.
Nope.
Let's
Nope,
go
not
to
at all.
Todd on our phone
That's
line.
not the case.
Let's go to Todd on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Todd, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, gentlemen, just a quick check on Chat GDP will tell you that in the last 10 years in the NFL, there's more SEC players. That's pretty obvious that the SEC is carrying, that much weight. I understand about championships, but you guys are former athletes. You know this. When you're playing 6 or 8 big games a season, how many players for Alabama and these types of teams lose their better players as the season goes on because of the grind? Indiana's got to play, 2 or 3 big games a year? You can get up for 2 or 3 big games a year. But just like you said, Willie, there's too many cupcakes in there.
Speaking of cupcakes,
Here we go. Here we go. The
Derek just-
snobbery.
Thank you, Todd.
Derek just
Thank you, Todd.
distributed
Here-
cupcakes in the
Exactly.
studio.
I
Just
just-
that was fitting. We got that call about cupcakes. Do you disagree? Derek,
Listen.
Give me
the
the
grind-
toughest games
No.
Indiana played this year.
I'm gonna tell you the grind. Period. For every college football team in their conference is a grind. It's physical. Every conference is physical, no matter what conference it is, and it's all relative. Indiana's their grind is relative to their conference, and it's still hard. You ask the Indiana players, the grind for Alabama or Georgia or anybody else, it's their grind in the SEC. The grind, it doesn't mean that they don't have a grind that they have to go to. Again, we are pushing this goalpost back now that the SEC hasn't shown their dominance within the college football playoffs in the last couple of years. Now, all of a sudden, it's, okay, we need to push the goalpost back a little bit. We're talking about the conference as a whole. Look at what, from top to bottom, look at their grind week in and week out. I get all of that, but that wasn't the argument years ago. The argument was we won championship after championship. And they didn't say we won. No, it's supposed to be about championships. But now all of a sudden it's about, from top to bottom. Who's the strongest conference from top to bottom? Okay, but who winning championships from top to bottom? The Big Ten has won the last 2, and they may win another one.
Jacob on our text line says, SEC fans and members always move the goalpost. For example, Notre Dame beats Arkansas by 43, and the narrative is Arkansas is a bottom feeder and bad team. Arkansas loses all of its conference games combined by almost the same margin as the single Notre Dame loss, and the narrative is, look how deep the SEC is. No bad teams. Anyone can beat anyone.
See?
They didn't play very well against Notre Dame.
Oh, so now they didn't play very well against Notre Dame.
That was not a good showing
Oh,
for
my
Arkansas. It was not.
goodness. Again, I am not saying that the SEC isn't a damn good conference, because it is. But we only have this conversation not because of bowl games. No, it was because of who won the national championship. And rightfully so. I couldn't say the Big Ten won. The ACC or the Big 12 couldn't say that. Only conference could say that based upon, championships, national was the SEC. So, all right, you earned it. You deserved it. There's the crown for being the best conference because y'all won championship after championship. But hold on. Y'all ain't winning championships no more. Now all of a sudden it's that's not what we're talking about.
Layers. We're going to different layers.
Now we're going to change.
We're moving the goalposts. There's no question. And at the same time, I do want to say that the champion is the champion.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a separate question of what is the best league. The best league doesn't always equal the league that has the champion. That is the argument that I'm making in a nutshell.
Okay.
And I think that's been the case these last 3 years.
No,
I think it's the best league from top to bottom.
The last 3 years.
But it hasn't had the champion.
The last 3 years.
Yeah.
What was before that? Oh, yeah, we're the best. We're the best. No matter because back then the conference
I don't even
wasn't
know if you could argue. There was no argument for anybody else.
But back then, the conference wasn't as deep as it is now. Back then, it wasn't. People still were screaming the SEC. And I'm not saying that the chants were not deserving, because they were. Because at the end of the day, the SEC more times than not walked away with the national championship. But now that things are changing when it comes to the national championship, now if you want to just say consistently over the years, from top to bottom, winning bowl games and this and that, okay. But that's not what we're talking about now. Now the conversation has changed. Now it's, no longer is it about championship, when before it was about championships. That's all it's about. That's why the argument about Michael Jordan and LeBron James will continue to be an argument. Why? It's about championships to some people. Others, look how long LeBron played. Look how many individual stats he has. Look at this, look at that. And then the Jordan fans like me say, but Jordan won 6 championships.
Okay.
That's what it's about, isn't it?
So let's again go back to my argument about Indiana and their pathway to get here, to get to the playoff.
Goodness.
Here are their tough games this year.
They had 2 of them.
At Iowa, where they had to pull it out, at Oregon,
at Penn State.
And Penn State ended up being 7-6. So I mean, how tough of an opponent? I mean, that game was a challenging game, but it wasn't against a great team. Right?
Oh, but when Arkansas has a challenging game, it's the conference is tough.
Okay, the Arkansas is arguably the worst team in the SEC. The worst team in any league is going to have some bad performances.
Well, Auburn too, the same thing. Auburn is tough.
I'm saying those teams were more capable of playing a game where they could stand toe-to-toe with a really good team, like Penn State. Penn State was preseason number 1. Like they underachieved, so you kind of knew that was going to be tough. But that's a whole schedule of 12 regular season games where basically 3 were challenging for Indiana. And part of that is because Indiana is so good. Like they whipped Illinois. Illinois is a good team. They beat them 63-10. So part of it is Indiana is that good. But there were some games that were mismatches, a lot more games that were mismatches within their league.
So what people are basically saying, the
bottom part of that league is weaker.
What people are basically saying is that no matter what, last year and this year, Indiana's record, Georgia's record, or Ole Miss's record, or Alabama's record is better than Indiana's win because they play in a tougher conference. No, we're gonna say we're going to exclude that Alabama lost 3 or 4 games. We're going to exclude that these other teams have lost 2 or 3 games. But if they were in the Big Ten, or if Indiana was in SEC, Indiana wouldn't be the team that they are now.
It would be a tougher road. It would be a tougher road. Now, Indiana proved in that Rose Bowl that they were quite a bit better than Alabama. That is the proof that Indiana is legit. I'm just saying the road that was traveled was an easier path than, say, Georgia, who had to beat Ole Miss in the regular season just to stay alive and get to the playoff, and then had to beat Ole Miss again, which they couldn't do. This is an illustration of the tough road that you have in the league. Indiana could have lost the game against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. They didn't have to win that game to get into the playoff. That's how easy the road. And they won it.
Indiana beat Michigan. They didn't play them.
They didn't play Michigan.
They didn't play Michigan this year.
They beat Michigan State.
They beat Michigan State. I get that.
Just throwing that in there.
They're in the bottom. They're at the bottom, just like Arkansas and South Carolina and whoever else is at the bottom of the conference.
They had league games. Indiana did 63-10, 56-6, 55-10, 31-7, 56-3. Part of that is because they're really good, but those are league games. Show me a league game? Show me a list of games in the SEC that ended up 56-6.
What about when LSU was just blowing the doors off at everybody? And I'm talking about people in the SEC. This argument didn't come up. It was just, okay, LSU was just damn good. They didn't minimize the conference. It was just they were that good. Why is it now minimizing the conference? Because Indiana is just that good. Why we can't just say Indiana's that good? I
stand by my argument. It's not as deep. It's not as deep. And Indiana is legit. And if Oregon wins, I think I would say the same thing about Oregon.
Jess
Easier road, but a very legitimate national champion.
Jess on our text line says Willie's argument would not hold up in a court of law.
What?
Another texter says D Mace is obviously anti-SEC. All I have to say is the next train out of town leaves at 8:00.
If you've been listening to the show, I ain't taking no train. If you've been listening to the show,
you're not gonna be sitting with John Madden?
Nah, for a while. I need to get to my destination fast. You will know that I have recognized how good the SEC
yes, you have.
Has been. I've always said that. And I've said up until today, I've said the SEC, they have a right to hold on to that moniker, But when things start to change, don't move the goalposts. That's all I'm saying. I think the SEC is still a damn good conference. They're still the top conference. But what I'm saying is, if we're going by the old rules, then the Big Ten is the top conference, or the ACC is the top conference.
The ACC is not. You got to stop that. And that's coming from me. Quickly, one texter says, I watched Missouri leave the Big 12 and go to the SEC. They went from a mediocre team in the Big 12 and then went to back-to-back SEC title games. SEC snubs wrote it off as a weak SEC East. Nonsense. The top of the SEC is typically elite. The rest is like all the other conferences.
Wait, Missouri's been in the league for like 15 years now. He's going back a long way for that. And I do remember exactly the time he's talking about. It was kind of a weaker East at the time. They got to play in the championship game.
Oh, see?
It did happen. Sometimes it happened the other way, where the West was weaker in some years.
But isn't it supposed to be the toughest conference?
I think it's changed considerably. My theory is, since the NIL and the transfer portal came in, it's leveled the playing field, and everybody, including Vanderbilt, is in the game with something to bring to the table, more so than the bottom 5 or 6 teams in the Big Ten.
615-737-1025. The summary from the text line is, you are both nuts. Some of you think Derek is nuts. Some of you think Willie is nuts. And I think there's a Purdue logo on my cupcake here. 615-737-1025. Sorry, Boilermakers, for catching a stray. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, I want to sneak in a quick Predators thought here. The Predators won once again last night against the New York Islanders, and I'm still feeling conflicted. And I want to hear from Predators fans who might also be feeling conflicted. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Right-hand shot, picks up, comes in with speed. Over through the left, moves across. Backhander scores! Philip Forsberg puts the Predators up 1-0.
The Predators win once again last night in a shootout against the New York Islanders. 14 wins in their past 21 games. Quickly, one more thought on the SEC. Matthew from Jolton says, the top of the Big Ten is better, but the SEC is better collectively. Arkansas would dog walk Rutgers, but Georgia or Alabama can't compete with Ohio State or Indiana. Now, if you're on Team Willie, you would agree with the latter part of that text from Matthew. The SEC is better collectively, and that's why the SEC is the best conference. The first part, you agree with Derek. The top of the Big Ten is better, and those teams are winning the national championships, and Indiana could join that group. Indiana has to get by Oregon. Well, they're both in the Big Ten, right? So one of them will make it to the national title game. But let's get to the Predators. The Predators win again last night, as I just said, against the Islanders. 14 wins in the past 21 games. The Predators are 2 points out of the final wild card spot in the Western Conference. And once again, I am feeling conflicted. By the way, since the day before Thanksgiving, the Predators are playing like a top 10 team in the NHL based on points percentage. And that's why the Predators are back to in the mix. And here again is my position. If you did not hear it yesterday or on Preds Insiders earlier this week, here is my position on what's happening with the Predators. I have thoroughly enjoyed watching the Predators over the past month and a half. It sure as hell beats what we were forced to endure all of last season and the first quarter of this season. But I am a bit concerned that if the Predators keep collecting points at this clip and stay in the wild card mix as the trade deadline approaches in early March, that Barry Trotz will not do what is in the best interest of the franchise in the long term. Now, he told us earlier this week that his plan has not changed. Elliot Friedman told us yesterday that Trotz is still looking to get younger. But it's easy to say that now when we are still around 2 months away from the trade deadline. And I acknowledge that I am probably getting ahead of myself, but I just don't want to see the Predators stuck in the mushy middle, which is where they have been for most of the past several years. So I am enjoying this. I am. Another great game last night. But the more they win and the more they keep in the mix in the Western Conference wildcard race, I'm getting a little nervous. I'm concerned, as I just said, that Barry Trotz may not do what is ultimately in the best interest of the franchise in the long term if the team keeps winning at this rate.
Well, if the team keeps winning at this rate, if you're talking about winning 2 out of every 3, it's hard to argue. I think we know that the nature of this game would suggest they're going to level off. I think Elliot put it well yesterday. They're not as bad as they were at the start of the year, and they're not as good as they played the last month and a half. I think what their record is about what they are. A team that is not unlike about 6 teams in the West, that somebody, 1 or 2 of them in this group of 6, maybe 7 teams, somebody's got to win those 2 wildcard spots. Somebody will be awarded those spots. They have to make the playoffs. The only thing that I emphasized yesterday that I want to emphasize again today, when I saw, you just heard Pete's call of Philip Forsberg's beautiful goal in the shootout, an intense overtime. UC Saros made about 3 great saves in the overtime to keep it tied, to go to the shootout. And then he stopped all 3 goals in the shootout. When that game ended, there were 17,000 plus that really cheered. You know, Adam, like they weren't conflicted in that moment. They erupted. I was down low. I got the unique perspective last night because on ESPN Plus of sitting down low by the glass, where I actually used to sit for a long time when I was doing the Predator pre- and post-game show that Max Hurst does now and Chase does on the road. So it was a unique perspective for me to watch the game. So what I don't like is when you have all these people, party poopers, saying, oh, man, they need to start losing these games, man. Like the Herm Edwards. Hello, you play to win the game. Like, it's fun to win. And if they overachieve and stay in it, There's something to be said for that. And I understand the other side of it very, very well. But I'm trying to say, look at this side as well and ask yourself, are you having fun watching these games? And if they were to continue this, which I don't know if they can, it would be a great story, even if it ends up with them losing in the first round of the playoffs.
Now, we've talked about this a couple of times, Willie. We referenced a story written by Daily Faceoff in the summertime about how the Predators have never truly rebuilt. We've never seen the Predators tear it all down and be really bad for several years in a row and collect top draft picks. We've never seen that. I do think that this fan base has matured enough that it would accept lean years like that. Maybe not at the beginning of the franchise, maybe not even 10, 15 years ago. But by now, I truly believe that this fan base would accept some down years if it meant helping it build back up. Look, let me pull a team that has recently undergone this situation, the San Jose Sharks. The San Jose Sharks have been bad for a while. The San Jose Sharks have not made the playoffs since 2019. Remember the Sharks, they made the Stanley Cup final the year before the Predators made the Stanley Cup final.
Beat the Predators in 7 games.
Right. They were
along the way.
They were winning division titles left and right. Great teams with Joe Pavelski and Brent Burns and Logan Couture, Patrick Marleau. It didn't work, and they had to tear it down. It's been hard to be a Sharks fan for several years, but they were rewarded by having the opportunity to draft Macklin Celebrini. I want the Predators to have a Macklin Celebrini. If the San Jose Sharks make the playoffs, I think there is a very good chance that Macklin Celebrini could win MVP. He has been outstanding. He just made Team Canada. He's 19, 20 years old? I want the Predators to have a Macklin Celebrini because it often takes a Macklin Celebrini to win a championship. So I hear what you're saying. I want Bridgestone Arena to be exciting and the fans to be fired up, but my worst case scenario is the Predators are 3 points out of a playoff spot the week of the trade deadline. And Barry Trotz is getting calls on Michael Bunting. Michael Bunting is a pending unrestricted free agent. Michael Bunting has been traded at the trade deadline, I think, each of the past 2 years. He's playing well. Teams will trade for Michael Bunting.
You could get a lot for Michael Bunting.
But Barry Trotz doesn't want to disrupt the chemistry, and he doesn't trade Michael Bunting. And the Predators either miss the playoffs or they make the first round of the playoffs. They lose in 5 to Colorado, and Michael Bunting walks out the door in free agency. That's my worst case scenario. Not saying that Michael Bunting will determine the trajectory of the franchise.
No, it's a good example.
But that's what I'm concerned about.
I completely see that side of it. But the day in, day out, if a team is clicking to the best of its abilities, I'm just saying it's hard to walk away from that. And there will be GMs that I think are faced with this choice. If it's not Barry Trotz, and it very well might be, it might be 3 or 4 guys that are GMs who are looking at the team going, look, this team's battling every night. They're overachieving. Do I really want to break this whole thing down? And maybe you do a little bit of both, right? Maybe you can make a couple of shrewd moves where you trade a pending unrestricted free agent, but you make another trade that maybe keeps from just killing the morale in your locker room. Because I can tell you a few years ago when the Predators did do it, they made the 4 trades, right, which have really helped them. Like that was a smart series of moves that they made, that they're just scratching the surface of seeing the benefits from. Like part of the return is Reed Schaefer and Tanner Molendyk. And how many years ago was that? 3 years?
2023? Yes.
March of 2023 when they traded Ekholm,
Jeannot,
Granlund,
and Niederreiter.
4 trades. They still haven't really reaped anything from that, from any of the 4, right? They're all picks that are still just like Reed Schaefer's just getting there. And Reed Schaefer is going to be very good, I think. Tanner Molendyk, I think, is going to get there soon, but he hasn't even played a game yet. And then there's other picks that they just used last year. Tanner Jeannot, the first round pick was last year. That's Cam Reed, who just played for the World Juniors in Canada. He looks like he could be a pretty good prospect, but we're not going to know for a long time. So the moves you make don't affect your team for another 5 or 6 years in a lot of cases. So I do think they've laid some good groundwork, but I do remember the morale in the locker room was really tough. Like Tanner Jeannot broke down. The team got really emotional when they lost him. And ultimately, when I look back on it, was that the right move? Yeah, it was the right move. I'm just saying it's hard to break a team apart if they can continue with this chemistry. Now, they may make it easy on Barry Trotz. If they slide back and they're in last place, then it'll be easy. The tough one is if they're right on the edge when it gets to that trading deadline, what do you do?
A couple of texts. Jackson says, you nailed my thoughts exactly, Adam. What's the point of throwing away the possibility of collecting future assets just to get blasted by the Avalanche in 4 playoff games? Sean says, Adam, they've turned over nearly the whole damn team from a couple of years ago. The best way to grow players isn't throwing out a team of 22-year-olds. New kids are cycling in. What more are you wanting? Here, and another texter, by the way, says, tearing down the team on purpose is the dumbest idea ever. Use the talented veterans and people you have to build a team forward. 8 years to rebuild the San Jose Sharks. I seriously doubt that their plan included 8 terrible years to get good again. That makes no sense. It doesn't have to take that long, by the way, but this is my point. What more am I wanting? There are young players on the team right now, okay? Luke Evangelista has surprised me. I did not expect Luke Evangelista to be as productive as he has been. Matthew Wood has shown some things. Reed Schaefer has shown some things. None of those players compare to the talent you get at the top of the draft. I use Macklin Celebrini as an example. None of them hold a candle to Macklin Celebrini. The only way you get the type of player like that, and I'm just using Celebrini because I mentioned the Sharks, but look at the top picks in the draft in recent years. But here's the other thing too, and I mentioned this briefly yesterday, Willie. With few exceptions, teams that have won the Stanley Cup have had to go through some down years. The Florida Panthers went through some down years.
Some?
Many.
Decades.
The Colorado Avalanche went through down years. The Tampa Bay Lightning went through down years. The Washington Capitals went through down years. With the exception of Vegas, and I would also say the St. Louis Blues in 2019, it's rare for a team in recent history to win the Stanley Cup without bottoming out at some point. So this is, I wrote this like 4 years ago, and I maintain it to this day. The Predators will not get better until they allow themselves to get worse. And I'm enjoying the games. They are so much more fun to watch. But I think this team ceiling is what you are watching right now. Overall, in terms of the overall record, a 500-ish team. And I just, making the playoffs, probably losing in the first round. Aren't you guys sick of watching that?
No, I am not.
Okay, well,
I like the journey of a team that wasn't predicted to do anything and overcoming adversity and maxing out what they are. And I think I can't argue with anything you're saying, Adam, from a macro standpoint. Deep down, I think there's a lot of logic there, and that's right. I'm just simply saying that if your whole attitude every year is either you got to be good enough to win the cup or you want to lose every game, that's not how I look at sports. I like to enjoy a journey as a follower of a team from start to finish. And some years are going to be lean. Other years, maybe you feel like you got a chance to win it. But there are some years that I have enjoyed the journey of a team that has lost in the first round or has gotten to the first round and not had it all together. A couple guys get hurt or something, and it ends there. I don't look at those as failures. I enjoy the journey, and the end of the season, my feeling is usually, did the team get everything out of what they had? There is value in that. And I watched the crowd erupt last night on a good win against a good team to go 14-7 in their last 21 after being completely written off. That's a good story. And I'm down with that story. If that's how they want to continue, I will also understand if they go with the pathway that you've chosen there. No matter what they're doing, break it down and trade several assets.
Quickly, let's go to Ryan and Mount Juliet on our phone line. Ryan, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
What's going on, guys? I'm not just saying like I love the games, love the way they're playing, but Adam, you're right. This team, this organization needs a strip down. You do not get players like Celebrini, Bedard, McDavid every draft. These are generational players, and this year you have one coming out in Gavin McKinnon, who is another generational player. If you have a chance to draft these guys, you have to get them. And the one thing about the Preds is they've never had that chance. The highest pick they've had was Seth Jones at 4, Brady Martin last year at 5. Those guys are good. I don't know much about Martin yet. We'll find out. But, I mean, they're good. But we've never had the chance to get the Nathan McKinnons of the NHL, and this team needs one. Because, like you said, Adam, those guys are what get you to Stanley Cups and what get you to win Stanley Cups.
Thank you for the call, Ryan. We do have more reaction on our text line, so we will continue this conversation coming up next. 615-737-1025. I've made my case. Willie has made his. We want to hear from you. 615-737-1025. Willie Darnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. NFL Wild Card Weekend starts tomorrow, right? Games tomorrow?
Yes.
So we will discuss that, but we have a lot of reaction to our Predators conversation, and I do want to finish that conversation. Mark on our text line says, I would accept years of mediocrity in making the playoffs occasionally over 8 years at the bottom. I vehemently disagree. He continues, the Predators went to the Stanley Cup final in 2017. This wasn't after years of being at the bottom. It was in the middle of a remarkable stretch of making the playoffs every year. I'm not sure, but I think it was at least 10 years or so. The Blackhawks got Connor Bedard, and they've been at the bottom every year since. That generational player hasn't made a difference yet, with the emphasis on the word yet. But I've also noticed, Willie, a lot of people on our text line have pointed out that because the NHL has a draft lottery, just because you're the worst team doesn't mean you get the number one pick. Look at the team that the Predators played last night. The New York Islanders had a very small chance of having the number one overall pick. They moved all the way up, right? 10 spots. You saw Matthew Schaefer on the ice last night at Bridgestone Arena. He's a special, special player.
The rest of their team, I was not that impressed with. I don't know about you, Adam, but no question that was a big thing for them to win that lottery. I would like to think that you over the long time will be rewarded for trying to win. And I think that's why they set the lottery system up, is that, it's trying to reward teams for not just shutting it down and breaking it all the way down and losing and having their fans having to suffer for 7 or 8 years. I would like to believe that even if that happened this year to the Predators, if they slipped, because I think what we're seeing now is in the West, you're going to have a lot of teams that are going to end up between, say, 84 and 88 points, somewhere in that range, maybe more like 80 to 88, if you want to widen it a little bit. So there's going to be a lot of teams like the Islanders, right, who were competitive for a while, then slipped down and are in position to be in the lottery. I'm hoping one of those teams gets rewarded by winning the lottery, right, and not being rewarded for just saying we're going to stink and we're going to put our fans through 5 to 7 years of misery. And I think the Predators, because they started this really 3 years ago, they haven't been trading future assets for 3 years now. So they are starting to build a good farm system. They're not starting from scratch like some of these teams were when they started this. I think the Blackhawks had just milked it for everything it was worth, and then they decided, it's going to take a while, so we're going to break it all the way down.
One texter says, this Preds team is 1,000 times closer to the 2019 Blues than bottoming out. Okay, just 1 second. The 2019 St. Louis Blues, that was a once-in-a-generation type of run, from where they were halfway through the season at the bottom of the standings to winning the Stanley Cup. Pinning your hopes on the Predators doing the same thing is a fool's errand, to borrow a term that this texter used. And 2017 was 2017, okay? Before we move on, one texter mentioned the fact that, okay, here it is. Keep winning. McKinnon didn't do much until they got Mikko Rantanen and Cale Makar. Connor McDavid has the second best player on the planet and can't win a cup. And I understand the point that McDavid and Draisaitl, they've gone to the Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row, but they haven't won it. But again, if you look at recent Stanley Cup champions, at some point, by and large, not every team. Vegas is an example. Vegas took advantage of some advantageous expansion draft rules.
They deserve a lot of credit for
and they've been very aggressive on the trade market. But Florida had Alexander Barkov and Aaron Ekblad. They also had Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart. They traded for them, though, but both of them were top picks. Colorado had McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen, and Landeskog. Tampa Bay had Steven Stamkos and Victor Hedman. Washington had Alex Ovechkin and Nicholas Backstrom. Pittsburgh had Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. So I'm not saying you can't win the Stanley Cup without one of those players, but recent history tells you you probably need one. I mean, Vegas, for example, Vegas didn't win. Sorry, I was about to say Jack Eichel, but Jack Eichel, he was on that team, wasn't he, actually?
When they won the whole cup?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jack Eichel was a top pick. He was traded. Yes. Yeah. But by and large,
and Vegas took a little bit of a gamble medically because there was a big issue with his neck injury, which was precarious, at least in some people's minds. They were like, it's going to be all right. So let's make the deal. And they have been rewarded handsomely for their gambling nature, their aggressive nature. I just think there's more than one way to do it. The way you're saying it, to build it, there's no doubt, if you take a look at it, there's been plenty of great success stories. That you haven't even mentioned the Blackhawks with Taves and Kane, and
if you go further back,
Duncan Keith and Seabrook, the guys that they picked and they stunk for a long, long time. Then they made a great run. I'm looking at it from a different prism and saying it's not the only way. It's not the only way you can win, and there is a lot of benefit from being a good team. Your fans, I go back to last night. I go back to the last several home games. It's been a fun place to go. I like watching a fun team. And we as a market here have endured some rough times. The last season of Predators hockey in the first quarter of this year, that was really tough. Right? They were going through a tough time, frustrating. Had to be tough. And you throw the Titans on top of that, right? There's just not a lot going on. I'm saying that even if it's not a great team, there is a benefit from coming in saying, I like what this team's doing. This is a fun team to watch. I like watching Ryan O'Reilly. I like watching Steven Stamkos, etc.
The Predators are back in action, back-to-back home games, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday against the Chicago Blackhawks, Sunday against the Washington Capitals. Also happening this weekend, NFL Wild Card Weekend. 2 games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, 1 on Monday. Tomorrow we are treated to Rams at Panthers. Rams minus 10.5 on the road. And Packers at Bears. Green Bay favored by 1.5. Sunday, the game I am most excited for. Bills at Jaguars. Jacksonville favored by 1.5. That line has changed. I believe Buffalo was favored by 1.5 last I checked. 49ers at Eagles. Eagles minus 6. Chargers at Patriots. Patriots by 3.5. And on Monday night, Texans at Steelers. Houston favored by 3. I want to talk about the matchups in general, but I'm going to be viewing Wild Card Weekend through the prism of which playoff teams provide blueprints for the Tennessee Titans to get back into the postseason. And I'm focusing, guys, on the teams who were bad just a year ago. The New England Patriots, the Chicago Bears, the Jacksonville Jaguars. And my first thought in terms of how can the Titans emulate what those teams did, it emphasizes to me, Derek, just how important it is for the Titans to get this head coaching hire correct. Ben Johnson has been a godsend for Caleb Williams. You can say the same for Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence. Drake May has benefited from Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator. So that's the first thing I thought. Those 3 teams that were just as bad, maybe a little bit better, but still pretty bad, as the Titans last season, nailed those hirings based on what we've seen after 1 year. And it emphasizes the importance to me that the Titans have to get this hire right.
Yeah, the hire has to be right. But more importantly, if indeed the hire isn't a coordinator, then the hire he has to hire, which means the OC is going to be equally as important because Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, they were able to, hit that because Ben Johnson is not only a hell of an offensive coordinator, but he's their head coach now. So, and he directly affects the quarterback development. He and whoever their quarterbacks coach is. Same thing in Jacksonville, whereas Liam Cohen, he calls plays, right?
Yes.
He calls plays. So he is closely connected to the quarterback and the development of the quarterback. So not only is it important to hire the right head coach, but I think in this situation, if he's not a coordinator, meaning an offensive coordinator, and an up-and-coming one, or a guy that has been in this league for a while and is used to calling plays. If he's not that guy, then his hire is the most important hire, because if they don't get that right, the quarterback is not going to develop the way they wanted him to develop. Listen, with the Commanders, it wasn't they did well with hiring their head coach, but it was who the head coach hired as offensive coordinator that truly made that work, because Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels, they were able to build a connection, and Daniels was able to develop a lot quicker than what people thought he probably was or could. Same thing with Liam Cohen. Same thing with Ben Johnson. So if you're not going to hire a head coach slash coordinator, then whoever that head coach is, he must hire the right guy to help develop your quarterback. And I think people are missing that. Only thing we need is the head coach. Yeah, we need that head coach. But what if the head coach is not a play caller?
To that point, Willie, Chad Graff, who covers the Patriots for The Athletic, wrote a big story about Drake May heading into the postseason. And I really liked this passage, and I think it illustrates my point. Quote, "For it to happen this quickly," meaning May's ascension, "speaks to the fast-track PhD in quarterbacking that Josh McDaniels and head coach Mike Vrabel have given him. Their plan was pretty simple. McDaniels handled the X's and O's. Vrabel worked with him on being a leader. From McDaniels, he learned the intricacies of schematics, why Brady was able to be so decisive, what to do in certain situations, how to read a play. From Vrabel, a masterclass in leading a team, a focus on the importance of celebrating with his teammates, on being one of the guys, on knowing when and how to speak up. 9 months into that plan, May is arguably the best quarterback in the NFL."
It's quite an amazing ascension, as you called it. Is that worthy of a ring? I mean,
we'll take it.
Ascension, yeah. I'm still a little bit curious to see how he does in the postseason, knowing that it's a fact they had an easier schedule, an abnormally easy schedule, even for a last place team last year. So I want to see how he does as the competition really ratchets up. That being said, he's on a tremendous track, right? Even if it doesn't happen this year, they are really fortunate to have Drake May, and just the idea that he is in a discussion with MVP this early in his career. I think you have to give them full credit for how they have developed him.
Same can be said of Caleb Williams in Chicago. The Bears host the Packers tomorrow night at Soldier Field, and Ben Johnson was a hot coaching candidate even a couple of years ago, right? He decided to stay in Detroit for an extra year, comes out last year, joins the Chicago Bears, brings that scheme to Chicago. What were all of the conversations about Caleb Williams in the offseason? Maybe similar to the conversations a lot of people were having about Cam Ward. Like, is he really a number 1 overall pick? And look at him now, at an outstanding season for Caleb Williams. And Liam Cohen, it didn't start off well for Trevor Lawrence. He was sort of up and down. But the Jags have won, 8 in a row? And he's been outstanding. It took a little while, but Trevor Lawrence may be turning into the Trevor Lawrence everybody thought he would be when he came out of Clemson. So again, that was the number 1 takeaway for me as I was thinking about this. This shows you just how important it is for the Titans to get this coaching hire right. And to your point, Derek, it's not just about the head coach. It's about the head coach and the play caller. You mentioned Mike McDaniel earlier. It was reported that Mike McDaniel is going to interview for the Titans head coaching job. Your concern is that Mike McDaniel is not a culture builder. And I think people who watch the Miami Dolphins and cover the Miami Dolphins would agree with you. Once the Dolphins offense stopped scoring, how many points did they score on the Broncos that one game?
70, I think. Yeah.
Once the Dolphins offense stopped looking like the Harlem Globetrotters of football, I think the cracks were starting to show. McDaniel may not be a culture builder, which is why you don't think he should be the head coach of the Titans.
No.
But if they hire someone who is a culture builder and pair that person with Mike McDaniel, which we talked about yesterday, is going to cost some major moolah probably. That may be the type of pairing that can get Cam Ward off the ground.
Yeah, because, you know, I've always said this about players, and I think it's true about coaches. Players, it's not necessarily, listen, for me at least, it's not what this sport can do for me. If that's what you're in it for, you'll have a career, but it won't be a meaningful one. You'll make a little money, but okay. But what is it that the legacy you can leave to this sport? You know, what can you give to the sport? And when I look at McDaniels, it was almost like, and you know, to relate it to head coaches are supposed to, they're supposed to walk in and change the culture. They are supposed to be culture changers. The culture is not supposed to change them. It changed Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel was changed by the culture in that locker room. It wasn't the other way around. And it wasn't good because we saw once things started happening, this team started to spiral. So just like a head coach, you want somebody that can come in here and build a culture, not let the culture change him. And McDaniel seems to be that guy that he allowed that culture, whatever it was, and it seemed to be, it wasn't that great. It changed him. So I don't want him as a head coach because he's not a culture changer.
615-737-1025. Which team playing on Wild Card Weekend do you think provides the blueprint for the Titans to join these teams on Wild Card Weekend once again? 615-737-1025. We'll continue the conversation, take your reaction, and preview Wild Card Weekend. Coming up next, 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Now, I do know this. Belle Biv DeVoe. Never trust a big butt and a smile. Right, Derek?
Exactly, I guess.
There you go.
There you go.
I mean, I clearly did not take that advice because I married my wife.
I'd take precautions.
You okay?
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm not commenting on that one. I am not commenting on that. That is not my place.
In my corner over here.
Exactly. I'm just going to stay over here.
So we're talking NFL Wild Card Weekend, which kicks off tomorrow with 2 games, Rams at Panthers, Packers at Bears, 3 games on Sunday, Bills at Jags, Niners at Eagles, Chargers at Patriots, Monday night, Texans at Steelers. And I'm going to be watching this weekend through the prism of the Titans and which of these wild card teams provides a blueprint of sorts of how the Titans can get back to, frankly, wild card weekend. And I mentioned that the number one takeaway for me, looking specifically at the Bears, the Patriots, and the Jaguars, is just how important it is that the Titans nail this head coaching hire, specifically finding a coach, whether it's a head coach or an offensive coordinator, who can help Cam Ward be his best self. Willie, I want you to answer that question. Is there any team playing this weekend that you look to as someone or a team that the Titans can emulate maybe to get back into this picture?
I look at it a little bit more of bits and pieces from everybody, but if I had to pick one team, I think I would look at the Patriots. And the parallel is when you dive in and select a quarterback, you hope that you hit on it. And then it's support system around that quarterback, as you illustrated in the last segment. So I don't want to go back through that because I think that's a success story. It's a pretty quick rebuild that the Patriots had. And the Titans are now, 3 years into this, since their window closed. So next year will be an important year to show some progress. So I think the Patriots have the most. But I think you can learn from just about every team. I'm impressed with what the Jaguars have done when they switched coaches. If you'd have told me that, okay, they're going to trade their next year's first-round pick, they're going to get Travis Hunter, and Hunter is going to have very little impact, I would have said, another tale of woe from the Jaguars. But they have really brought out the best in Trevor Lawrence, which was not the case to this point in his career. This is going to be an extremely interesting game.
This is Jaguars, the game of the weekend
Bills.
For me.
Yes, the Bills trying to hang on with their window. They've been so close for so many years. Could be out in the first round.
I'm not even looking at any one of these teams. If you're talking about the Titans and how they should go about, revitalizing or this organization, more importantly, this roster. The team I think everybody needs to watch is Indianapolis. Even though I know the Indianapolis, they fell off because they lost their quarterback. But look at the way they built their team. Their team is built for the long haul. It may not have happened this year because of the quarterback situation, but it's like go down, and we talked about this before. Look at their starting lineup on offense. Really, all these guys are draftees. Every last one of them are basically draftees, guys that they drafted, developed, and they're going to either retain them or they've already retained them. So I know the flashy thing is to look at, Jacksonville and what they did. Look at New England or look at, the Chicago Bears. But quietly look at Indianapolis and what they've done just from a roster standpoint and how they've built their roster. All these guys are guys that are contributing, and some of these guys are borderline elite or elite guys, whether it be the running back, the tight end, the offensive lineman, the receivers. All these guys were drafted, and the only thing they needed was for the quarterback, Richardson, to develop and hit. They don't know if he is or not, but had he developed, say, in the way that Jaden Daniels developed or Drake May, Indianapolis would be unstoppable. Why? Because they drafted well and they've developed these players. The only thing they're missing is really a quarterback. And they hope that Richardson is that guy. So we can look at these other teams, yeah, but look at what Indianapolis is quietly doing, talent-wise.
I'll tell you one team I thought about in this exercise that I chose against, and that's the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers backed into the NFC South title at 8-9. They are a 10.5-point underdog at home, despite being a division champion, against the Rams tomorrow afternoon. And I was thinking about it through the context of Bryce Young. And tomorrow, I think, is a huge game for Bryce Young. Huge. I think of Bryce Young. And by the way, the Panthers did beat the Rams earlier this season, and Bryce Young threw for 3 touchdowns. He only threw 20 passes. But it's a big game for Bryce Young. And we did talk about Bryce Young a few weeks ago, comparing him to Cam Ward. Bryce Young has made strides, but he was so far underground that even though he has taken steps, he is still a below average quarterback. I think if the Titans were in the same position as the Panthers right now, if the Titans make the playoffs in Cam Ward's 3rd year, but Cam Ward is playing like Bryce Young, I don't think Titans fans will accept that at all. So I know that Bryce Young, look, he's had a roller coaster early part of his NFL career, but he's in the playoffs, in a home game, has a chance to take down a Super Bowl favorite. But I wouldn't want Cam Ward to be Bryce Young based on where Bryce Young's career is right now.
No, I mean, well, okay, based upon what it is right now, what if, he goes out and they win the next 2 games and he finds himself in the NFC Championship game?
That would be a game changer.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. That would be sort of this game changer. But I know
it doesn't look like he's capable of that. But
from a statistical standpoint, you don't. After 3 years, if Cam looked like this, we would probably be saying,
I think he deserves full marks for looking like he was on the verge of being a bust and resurrecting himself to get back to this point. And now we'll see if he can take some more steps forward and bring them to a higher level. He also needs, I don't look at that roster and say, wow, that's a really good rising roster in all facets. Like, I think there were people, I don't remember exactly who's who, but I was hearing them as a sleeper team before the year. I was like, what are you talking about? They're terrible. They have nobody. So they've done some good work behind the scenes in some parts of the roster, but I think Bryce Young could use like a wingman, a really good skill player to go alongside him. That would probably help him.
It could be
better.
Ted McMillan. It could be he had a solid season. By the way, Bryce Young finished 22nd out of 28 quarterbacks in QBR this season. Cam Ward was 28th out of 28. But even Bryce Young in a rebound season was still a below average quarterback in QBR. Outside, so I've already said my game of the weekend is Bills at Jaguars. I am fascinated by this game. The line has shifted when I wrote down, because we're going to pick this game for Take It to the Bank. When I wrote it down earlier today, the Bills were favored by 1.5. Now the Jags are favored by 1.5, which I think is correct. Outside, so let's exclude that game. Would you all agree that's the most intriguing game of the weekend? Bills at Jaguars?
Yeah, well, that one in the Chargers in New England.
The Chargers never do anything in the playoffs.
But I think New England is intriguing because they've been hearing all year that, hey, you guys have a soft schedule. And Vrabel has ate it up, right? Remember, there's that one game, and of course, this ended up coming back on Vrabel a little bit because they beat the Buccaneers when the Bucs looked like they were going to roll again to the NFC South, and they whipped the Bucs. And as they came off the field, Vrabel was saying, hey, that's the AFC South champ. He knew the microphone was on him too. Hey, that's the NFC South champ. NFC South leader right there. But when you look at the strength of schedule, it doesn't lie, right? They caught a really good groove with who they played this year. And I agree with you. Like the Chargers, they never seem to be able to come up big in the playoffs, but this is a Harbaugh, right? And it happened last year with Harbaugh, but I don't know. I'm intrigued by that one. I can't argue. The number one game is the Bills-Jags. There's no question.
Yes. I'm also, look, whenever the Packers and Bears play, it's always fun, especially in this environment in the postseason. the game I'm having a hard time getting a read on. 49ers at Eagles, Sunday afternoon, 3:30 kickoff. Philly -6. Like,
why?
I don't know. I can't.
It seems to have grown, right?
I'll have to see what it opened at. Let's see here. It opened at -3, and now it's -6. Did I miss something with the 49ers?
I mean, I might need to check the injury report
They
here.
got injuries.
See what's going on.
But the Eagles, I did not watch every single Eagles game, but I did not find myself incredibly impressed with the Eagles this year. The 49ers feel to me that they're the better team, so I'm surprised by that spread. I don't have a good read on this game.
Me either.
I was looking at this. I don't know if I've made the decision, but I was looking at the points and saying, I kind of like the 49ers in the points here.
I do as
if
well.
You don't pick 49ers at the points, but if you're just talking about a straight up win, I'm still leaning toward Philadelphia. I think the part about Philadelphia that people are sort of scratching their head with is their offense. It hasn't been consistent based upon the talent that they have. They have 2 elite receivers. They have an elite running back, a damn good quarterback, a good offensive line, but at times their offense looks stagnant.
The 49ers defense is banged up.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles have never lost at home in the playoffs under Nick Sirianni. But to your point, Derek, the Eagles, this according to NFL.com, the Eagles went 2-3 and averaged 19.4 points per game against teams with a 600-plus win percentage. Against teams under 600, they went 9-3 and averaged 23.5 points per game. So they did not play well against top competition.
Well, it seems like they really didn't play well against teams that were deemed not top competition. This Eagles offense, now the team as a whole, they've done a good job to overcome some certain things, but this team was known for their offense, and pushing the ball down the field, and AJ making these spectacular plays, and him being unstoppable, and Devontae Smith and what he's able to do, and Saquon Barkley. This team was built on their offense. Their defense, their front is good, really, really good. But when people look at the Eagles, it's like if their offense isn't scoring points, even though they're still winning games, if their offense isn't scoring points, then people have looked at Philly like, are they really, truly a Super Bowl contender? Regardless of them having AJ and Devontae and Saquon, Lane Johnson, are they a true contender? Because we haven't seen the Philadelphia Eagle team this year that we saw last year.
Especially down the stretch. It hasn't looked like they're really clicking. So it's a great question. That's why this league is so compelling. It really is. Like it is. I think all 7 teams in the AFC have a chance. I could see any one of the 7 getting in there. And I would say the same thing in the NFC except for Carolina. I think a legit shot of going on the road and winning all of these games. And you've got the Seahawks and the Broncos as number 1 seeds. How many people had those teams as the number 1 seeds in their respective conferences before the season?
I'm not
very few.
I'm not proud of this. Willie, you may have to check the scrolls. I may have predicted the Broncos to miss the playoffs at the start of the season.
I'm afraid to look. I do have the scrolls. I may or may not have purposely left them behind today, but we probably should look back on that at some point.
I either had the Broncos as the 7th seed in the AFC or missing the playoffs. I certainly did not have them number 1 overall.
I can't be sure that I didn't do the same thing.
Oh boy. Well, it's a good thing you didn't bring those with you. 615-737-1025. Wild card weekend in the NFL kicks off tomorrow at 3:30. Rams at Panthers, followed by Packers at Bears at 7 o'clock. You will need every television channel and streaming service known to man to watch all of these games. Rams at Panthers is on Fox. Packers at Bears is on Prime. Bills at Jags is on CBS. 49ers and Eagles is on Fox. Chargers and Patriots is on NBC/Peacock. Texans and Steelers is on ESPN/ABC. So I hope you have the multi-view warmed up. 615-737-1025. We will wrap up the week by taking it to the bank. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
All right. You heard Adam say it. It is about time for Take It to the Bank. That's how we end every week on this show. And we're looking forward to another fun round of predictions and jabbing and mocking and scorekeeping. And it's all thanks to our friends at F&M Bank. Banking made easy on purpose. They do such a great job of honing in on their clients. They've got 20 locations in our listening area. Your business means more to them. They want to be right in your backyard. They want to be there for you, a phone call away, a visit away, and they want to be familiar with your situation to help your financial life become easier. They've got a lot of tools for success. That's what they focus on. So find that nearest location to you at myfmbank.com. They've got Springfield covered. They got Mount Juliet. They got Murfreesboro, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, 6 in Clarksville, West End Avenue in Nashville. They've got you covered. myfmbank.com. We take it to the bank next with Take It to the Bank, F&M Bank, banking made easy on purpose, member FDIC.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. As we always do, we will wrap up the week by taking it to the bank, courtesy of our friends at F&M Bank, banking made easy on purpose. You can visit one of their locations throughout Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky or online at myfmbank.com. Before we make our selections for the week, David Janes has our recap of last week.
All right, boys. So last week, it was a pretty good week for a few of you guys. One is for Adam. Let me go back to the general questions. Well, go back. So will Cam Ward extend his multi-touchdown streak? He only got one, and then he got hurt. So, of course, that did not happen. Me and D-May said yes, it would. And Adam and Willie were the doubters, and they were proven right.
This should be like an asterisk.
I know. I should do it, but I feel like Willie will riot the streets.
You can't
up here once you buy the game, and
the card laid is card played. That was the question. Yes or no?
Okay.
That's why because of that point right there. That's why I wasn't going to do it. And then the other one was, can't even believe Adam even asked this question, which was Ravens at Steelers. Who's going to win? Obviously, the Steelers won. I guess who's the only one who got it right was Adam because he
kickers, man.
I know.
Damn.
Tyler Loop is he's on my list. Tyler Loop's on my list right now.
Man.
All right, now
they make it look so easy 90% of the time, and then there's always that one kick.
I mean, that kid at Vanderbilt on College Game Day nailed that one. He made it look easy.
He sure did.
So
I'm just reliving a nightmare right now. Just having to think about it. Now let's go back to Adam. Adam, you for your individual picks. Adam, you said the Panthers would beat the Bucks.
Wrong.
They did not happen. And then you said the 49ers over the Seahawks. That also didn't happen.
Wrong.
But you got both the general questions right. So you got 4 points.
Okay.
For a total of 77 points.
All righty.
Okay.
Now let's go to Willie. Willie, you said the Seahawks over the 49ers -2.5. Because of that -2.5, you got the point. And then you also said the Panthers +3. You got the point there as well.
Boom.
So you got a total of 6 points for a total of 93 points. Shout out to Willie Donick.
So I take it I didn't do well.
You got one. You got 1 point. You got Miami over Ole Miss. But then you said Bang would have 2 sacks. He didn't get no sacks.
Dang it.
Now for me, let me find the button that I usually press. It was a bad. This has been a bad couple of weeks, man. I've done really bad. I said Henry with 2 touchdowns. He didn't even get a touchdown, and then Ole Miss over Miami. I got a goose egg. So I have 63. Or no, I have 65. D-Miss, you passed me with 66.
Yes. I'm not at the bottom anymore.
I'm at the bottom.
Yes.
All right, let's
Not a
start
bottom feeder.
with our general questions, both related to NFL Wildcard Weekend. First game of the weekend, tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. on Fox. Rams at Panthers. Rams favored on the road by 10.5. Will Carolina cover, yes or no? Derek?
Whew. I did say don't be surprised.
You did. I want to hear this answer.
You did.
I said don't be surprised. But I believe they do cover.
Okay.
I believe they cover. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think they cover.
Okay. Willie?
Rams will win decisively. I believe I will take the Rams plus the 10.5. Panthers will not cover.
I will also take the Rams -10.5. David?
I'm going Panthers. I think they'll cover.
Okay. Split. The game of the weekend, in all of our opinions, Buffalo at Jacksonville. When I wrote this down this morning, Buffalo was favored by 1.5. It is now Jacksonville by 1.5. Who wins? Derek?
We're talking straight up here?
Straight up.
I'm picking.
Do it.
They're in Jacksonville, right?
Yes.
Ooh. I can't bet against Josh Allen. I'm going with the Bills. I can't bet against Josh Allen. I'm going with the Bills. I think it's going to be a tough game, but I'm going with the Bills.
Willie?
I'll take the Bills as well. I just feel like they've got a run in them here.
David?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, give me Duval.
I was about to say, David hit it.
Duval.
That's it. I'm going Jacksonville. I'm going Jacksonville as well. Partially because I want to see what happens if Buffalo loses, because it will not be I'm sure
It's getting harder for Buffalo. It's getting tougher for Buffalo to keep spinning the wheels salary cap wise. It reminds me a little bit of the Oilers in hockey, where they've got the big pieces, and you're like, how do we get the right? Let's keep tweaking the formula until we get it right. And then it seems like each year it gets tougher and tougher to do that.
Derek, why don't you go first this time with your individual selection?
All right. First, and I'm going to stick with this for both of my picks. I am picking Vanderbilt over LSU, and they will cover. I think it's 14.5. I think Vandy covers.
I will check.
Okay. And I think they hit over 10 3-pointers.
Vanderbilt is favored by 14.5 against LSU at home tomorrow. So you are correct on that. Willie, why don't you go now?
Wow. Okay. Faith in the Commodores. I like that. I am going to take the Indiana Hoosiers tonight. What is the line?
Let's take a look. It is Indiana -3.
I will take the -3. I will take Indiana. I just think it's their year. And maybe I'm just rooting for them a little bit. I love the story of the team that for decades, Indiana football. I'm in on the bandwagon.
Maybe Kurt Cignetti will crack a smile, for God's sake.
Maybe
is that guy not an entertainment show on his own? I could just watch him walk up and down the sideline every play. It's intriguing. It captures me. And then I'm going to pick one other of the NFL games. I am going to take the Chargers plus 3.5.
Wow.
I think it's going to be right down to the wire. I think, I'm not saying they're going to win, but I like them as the dog. And I think the Patriots they might eke it out, but I feel like the Chargers are going to bring something to the table there.
Okay. I am going to stay on NFL wildcard weekend. Give me the Niners to cover on the road at Philadelphia. I see Philadelphia -6. I will take the Niners to cover that 6. And tomorrow night, Packers at Bears. Packers favored by 1.5. I will take the Bears at home against the Packers.
The Bears.
I will take the Bears against the Packers. David?
All right, boys. So I agree with Willie about the Indiana pick. I don't know why. I just love him so much. Kurt Cignetti kind of looks like have y'all seen the boss from Incredibles? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
He kind of looks like the boss from Incredibles a little bit. So give me the Hoosiers. Who's your daddy? And then also I'm going to go to the Vandy LSU game. I think Tyler Tanner will have, I'm going to go 20 points.
20 points.
20 points.
That would be about what he's been doing.
Kurt Cignetti does look like the boss from Incredibles. Yeah, I can see that.
So, Willie, why you're not confident in the point spread with Vandy?
I don't know that much about LSU. It just scares me a little bit. Coming
Especially
off
after the game they played.
It was a big emotional game the other night. I want to see how they bounce back. I know there were a couple guys banged up. I will say this, though. Tyler Tanner, man, he gets more impressive every time I watch. If you have not focused in on this kid is from Brentwood Academy.
He's a dog.
He was not a big recruit. He was like Mr. Basketball with Tennessee. He was a really good high school player, great high school player. But he was not nationally like he could go anywhere like Darius Garland or Brandon Wright several years ago. He's not like ballyhooed like that.
I think he had offers from Murray State, Memphis, and just like a few like the smaller schools. So this is impressive.
And he had faith in himself to say, hey, I committed to Jerry Stackhouse and Jerry Stackhouse is gone. Is the next guy even going to want me? Especially the way these things go now.
Yeah, you're right.
But he was like, I'm going to the school and I don't care who the coach is and I'm going to win a spot. He is a heck of a story and he just keeps getting better.
I see here that the 2025 All-Pro teams will be announced tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central. I assume Jeffrey Simmons will be on that list?
Jeffrey Simmons and DK.
You think DK will be an All-Pro?
Yes, he should be.
What do
He's
you
the best
think,
returner out there?
I don't know all the returners off the top of my head, but there's no question DK was pretty special at what he did there.
I'm just looking forward to the fact that I don't have to watch a Titans game this Sunday. It's kind of nice.
It's been that bad, huh?
It's hard. It's been hard. It's been hard.
Need therapy?
No, not that hard.
Okay. I was just wondering, ain't nothing wrong with
It's
it.
healthy. It's healthy.
It's healthy, exactly.
Therapy is
There's nothing
good.
wrong with
No.
Not even for the bad times.
I am.
Exactly.
I am a huge proponent of therapy.
Okay.
So-
Just wanted to make sure.
Okay, good.
I've done it
Titan
myself.
therapy.
I've done it myself. But yes, the fact that I don't have to watch the Titans on Sunday, it's making me feel good inside. That's a good thing.
Okay. Have you guys, because I found myself now that sort of the regular season is where it has done itself
Mhm.
and it's over with. I found myself gravitating more and more to college basketball. Like now I'm starting to watch, even though I watch my Spartans, but I'm watching them religiously.
I think
now.
that's natural for a lot of people.
This is the time. I would encourage people who have gotten down on college basketball to
It's
watch.
some good,
Yeah.
good product out there. It's really good.
Absolutely.
Got to control the fouls a little bit.
Yeah.
You got to figure out this. The other night was just a little bit long.
Just a little bit.
Just
Yeah.
a little bit long.
That'll do it for us this week. Enjoy NFL Wild Card Weekend. We will break it all down on Monday. The Predators play on Saturday and Sunday as well. So a full sports weekend for all of you. Indiana and Oregon in roughly 30 minutes, 35 minutes. So a lot to watch, but enjoy yourselves, enjoy your families, get outside, touch grass, and we will talk to you Monday at 3:00.
Be loved, love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful weekend. I love you. The team loves you. You hear that music. Don't you forget about us, because we will not forget about you. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you Monday at 3 p.m. on 102.5 The Game. Peace.